From daring prison escapes that seemed impossible to masterminding schemes that stole a staggering $4 billion, their actions forced the FBI to put them on its famous 10 Most Wanted list, a list usually dominated by men. Let's get into it. Ruja Ignatova, the Crypto Queen, and her disappearance. Ruja Ignatova is a Bulgarian-German entrepreneur and convicted fraudster, best known as the founder of the massive OneCoin pyramid scheme. She rose to prominence as the self-proclaimed Crypto Queen, but her story took a dramatic turn when she vanished, leading to her placement on the FBI's 10 Most Wanted Fugitives list. Born on May 30th, 1980 in Ruse, Bulgaria, Ignatova founded OneCoin in 2014, marketing it as a revolutionary cryptocurrency that would rival Bitcoin. She claimed OneCoin was a simpler and safer alternative, encouraging investors worldwide to purchase OneCoin packages by wiring funds into bank accounts. However, OneCoin was not a genuine decentralized cryptocurrency. Instead, it was a fraudulent pyramid scheme where the value of the coin was arbitrarily set by OneCoin itself, not by market forces. Through misrepresentations, Ignatova and her co-conspirators allegedly defrauded victims out of more than $4 billion globally. In October 2017, as investigations intensified, Ignatova, then OneCoin's top leader, was scheduled to speak at an event in Lisbon. Instead, she traveled from Sofia, Bulgaria, to Athens, Greece on October 25, 2017, and has not been seen publicly since. It is believed she may have been tipped off about increasing police investigations. On October 12, 2017, Ignatova was charged in the United States District Court, Southern District of New York, with wire fraud, securities fraud, and money laundering, and a federal warrant was issued for her arrest. On June 30, 2022, the FBI added Ruja Ignatova to its 10 Most Wanted Fugitives list, offering a reward of up to $5 million for information leading to her arrest or conviction. She is believed to travel with armed guards and may have altered her appearance through plastic surgery. Her brother, Konstantin Ignatov, who took over OneCoin after her disappearance, pleaded guilty to fraud and money laundering charges in connection with the scheme in 2019. One of her co-founders, Carl Sebastian Greenwood, was sentenced to 20 years in prison in 2023 for his role in the fraud. The whereabouts and fate of Ruja Ignatova remain unknown, leading to various theories, including speculation that she may have been murdered. However, as of present, the FBI continues to operate under the assumption that she is still alive and actively seeking information on her location. Shanika S. minor is an American criminal who gained national attention after being placed on the FBI's 10 Most Wanted Fugitives list in 2016 for the shooting death of a pregnant woman and her unborn child in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. The crime occurred on March 6, 2016. Minor was involved in an argument with her mother's neighbor, 23-year-old Tameka Perry, who was 9 months pregnant and due to give birth within days. The dispute stemmed from an argument over loud music. According to reports, Minor had a prior confrontation with Perry over music, during which Minor brandished a handgun and fired a shot into the air. She then left the scene. However, Minor returned to the duplex where her mother and Perry lived shortly before 3 a.m. the next morning. During a confrontation at the rear door, despite Minor's mother trying to intervene and separate the two women, Minor allegedly reached over her mother's shoulder and fired a gun, striking Tameka Perry in the chest. Perry collapsed inside her residence and died in front of her 2 young children. Her unborn child also died. Following the shooting, Shanika Minor fled and was on the run for nearly 4 months. She was added to the FBI's 10 Most Wanted Fugitives list on June 28, 2016, making her the 10th female to be placed on the list. A reward of up to $100,000 was offered for information leading to her capture. Minor was arrested on July 1, 2016, in Fayetteville, North Carolina, after citizens provided information about her whereabouts to law enforcement. In July 2017, Shanika Minor pleaded guilty to 1 count of first-degree reckless homicide and 1 count of first-degree reckless homicide of an unborn child. On August 24, 2017, she was sentenced to 30 years in prison and 10 years of extended supervision. The judge noted the senseless nature of the crime, highlighting the extreme violence that resulted from a dispute over loud music. Brenda Delgado is an American woman who was convicted of orchestrating a murder-for-hire plot driven by jealousy, which resulted in the death of 35-year-old Dallas dentist Dr. Kendra Hatcher. The crime occurred on September 2, 2015. Delgado was unable to accept that her ex-boyfriend, Dr. Ricardo Ricky Paniagua, had moved on and was seriously dating Dr. Hatcher. Consumed by jealousy, Delgado meticulously monitored Hatcher's movements, even using apps to track Paniagua's phone and accessing his emails. She then hired two individuals, Christopher Love as the triggerman and Crystal Cortez as the getaway driver, to kill Hatcher and make it appear as a robbery gone wrong. Hatcher was shot and killed in the parking garage of her uptown Dallas apartment building. Following the murder, Brenda Delgado fled to Mexico. She was subsequently placed on the FBI's 10 Most Wanted Fugitives list in April 2016, becoming the 9th woman ever to appear on the list. Just 2 days later, on April 8, 2016, she was apprehended in Torreon, Mexico, and later extradited to the United States in October 2016 to face charges. As part of the extradition agreement with Mexico, where the death penalty is not recognized, U.S. prosecutors agreed not to seek the death penalty against her. In June 2019, Brenda Delgado was found guilty of capital murder by a Dallas jury after deliberating for only 20 minutes. She was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Her accomplices also faced justice. Christopher Love was convicted of capital murder and sentenced to death, while Crystal Cortez pleaded guilty to murder in exchange for a 35-year sentence and testified against Delgado and Love. Shauntay Henderson is an American felon known for her involvement in a shooting death in Kansas City, Missouri, and for briefly appearing on the FBI's 10 Most Wanted Fugitives list. The primary crime for which Shauntay Henderson gained notoriety occurred on September 2, 2006, at a gas station in Kansas City, Missouri. Henderson shot and killed DeAndre Parker while he was in his truck. During her trial, Henderson claimed self-defense, asserting that Parker attempted to run her over with his truck. However, the prosecution argued that she did not have a real necessity to use deadly force and could have retreated. Following the shooting, Henderson became a fugitive. She was placed on the FBI's 10 Most Wanted Fugitives list on March 31, 2007, but was apprehended in Kansas City, Missouri, less than 24 hours later. This made her only the 8th woman to appear on the list at that time. In November 2008, after a bench trial where she testified on her own behalf, Shauntay Henderson was acquitted of second-degree murder, but convicted of the lesser charge of voluntary manslaughter and armed criminal action. In January 2009, she was sentenced to a 10-year prison term for voluntary manslaughter, with the execution of the sentence suspended, and was placed on probation for 5 years. She also received a 3-year sentence for armed criminal action. However, her legal troubles continued. In October 2011, she pleaded guilty to being a felon in possession of a firearm stemming from a 2010 incident where she was caught with a handgun while on parole. In April 2012, she was sentenced to 7 years in federal prison without parole for this charge. In May 2012, her probation for the 2006 conviction was revoked, leading to her being ordered to serve the previously suspended 10-year sentence. This 10-year sentence was set to run consecutively to her 7-year federal sentence, resulting in a total of 17 years in prison. Shauntay Henderson has been the subject of various media reports and documentaries, with authorities having suspected her involvement in other crimes, though no additional charges were filed. Donna Willmott, a member of the Weather Underground, the radical activist movement that was known for using violence as an effective means of protesting societal constructs like racism, sexism, classism, as well as the Vietnam War, Donna Willmott was charged in 1985 with buying and transporting explosives to blow up a maximum security prison in Kansas. It was part of a plot to free Oscar Lopez, a leader of Fuerzas Armadas de Liberación Nacional, a Puerto Rican separatist organization known for using violence to further their cause. The FBI originally located the pair when Marks bought what he believed to be 37 pounds of explosives from a merchant who was actually an undercover agent. When Marks and Willmott found an FBI monitoring device in their car, they and their future spouses fled and went underground. While she was wanted by the FBI as a terrorist, she transformed into Joe Elliott, a neighborhood fixture in her Pittsburgh community, volunteer with the Pittsburgh AIDS Task Force and Children's AIDS Project, doting mother and loyal friend. In 1994, Willmott, along with Claude Daniel Marks, her partner in the 1985 crime, who had been living a few blocks away under the name Greg Peters, turned themselves into federal authorities in Chicago after almost a year of negotiations. The two surrendered in December, and Willmott was sentenced to 3 years in prison that May. Marks was sentenced to 6 years due to his larger role in the plot. Catherine in Power is an American former radical activist whose involvement in a deadly bank robbery in 1970 led to the death of a police officer and made her a long-term fugitive on the FBI's 10 Most Wanted list. On September 23, 1970, Power, then a Brandeis University student and part of a revolutionary anti-Vietnam War group, was the getaway driver in an armed robbery of the State Street Bank and Trust in Brighton, Massachusetts. During the robbery, Boston police officer Walter Schroeder was fatally shot by one of her accomplices, William Lefty Gilday. The group had also previously robbed a National Guard armory. Power immediately went underground, appearing on the FBI's 10 Most Wanted Fugitives list on October 17, 1970. For 23 years, she lived under the alias Alice Louise Metzinger in various locations, eventually settling in Corvallis, Oregon, where she built a new life, working in restaurants and raising her son. After decades in hiding, Catherine and Power negotiated her surrender in 1993. On September 15, 1993, she pleaded guilty to armed robbery and manslaughter in Boston. She was sentenced to 8 to 12 years in prison, serving 6 years before her release on October 2, 1999, on 14 years of probation. During her incarceration and after her release, Power engaged in conscience work, seeking to understand her actions and atone for the harm she caused, particularly to Officer Schroeder's family. Susan Edith Saxe is an American former radical activist who, like Catherine and Power, was involved in the deadly 1970 bank robbery that resulted in the death of a police officer, leading to her placement on the FBI's 10 Most Wanted Fugitives list. Born in 1949, Saxe was a student at Brandeis University and an anti-Vietnam War activist. On September 23, 1970, she participated in an armed robbery of the State Street Bank and Trust in Brighton, Massachusetts, alongside Catherine and Power, Stanley Ray Bond, and ex-convicts William Gilday and Robert Valeri. The group's aim was to acquire funds for anti-war efforts. During the robbery, Boston Police Department officer Walter Schroeder was shot and killed by accomplice William Gilday. Days before the bank robbery, the group also broke into a National Guard armory in Newburyport, Massachusetts, stealing weapons and ammunition. Following the fatal bank robbery, Susan Edith Saxe, along with Catherine and Power, became a fugitive. Saxe was placed on the FBI's 10 Most Wanted Fugitives list on October 17, 1970, the same day as Power. She remained on the list for nearly 5 years. During her time on the run, Saxe reportedly lived under various aliases, including Val Wolf and Arlene Hellman, and was suspected by the FBI of being involved in a women's underground to evade capture. Susan Edith Saxe was ultimately arrested on March 27, 1975, in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, after a police officer recognized her from an FBI photo distributed that same day. Following her capture, Saxe admitted her involvement in the crime through letters to her rabbi and father, expressing a sense of impending doom. She later came out as a lesbian in feminist media and sought support for her legal defense. Saxe was charged with bank robbery and murder. She served 7 years in prison for her role in the crimes. Her trial was one of the early high-profile cases. Bernardine Rae Dohrn is an American former radical activist and a key leader of the far-left militant organization, the Weather Underground WO, which was active during the late 1960s and 1970s. She became one of the most prominent women on the FBI's 10 Most Wanted Fugitives list due to her involvement in the group's revolutionary and often violent activities. Dohrn emerged as a significant figure in the Students for a Democratic Society, SDS, a leading New Left organization, before becoming a co-founder and, arguably, a top leader of the Weather Underground. The WO advocated for the overthrow of the U.S. government, engaging in various acts of sabotage and bombings to protest the Vietnam War, racism, and other societal injustices. On October 14, 1970, Dohrn was added to the FBI's 10 Most Wanted Fugitives list, making her the 4th woman to appear on it. This occurred shortly after the WO's declaration of a state of war in May 1970, which formally escalated the group's commitment to violent action. While Dohrn was on the run, the Weather Underground was responsible for numerous bombings, including targets like the U.S. Capitol, the Pentagon, and several police stations. The group was also tragically involved in the Greenwich Village townhouse explosion in March 1970, where 3 WO members were killed when a bomb they were constructing accidentally detonated. Bernardine Dohrn remained a fugitive for 10 years, living underground with fellow WO leader and future husband, Bill Ayers. She was removed from the FBI's Most Wanted list in December 1973 after a federal judge dismissed charges against the Weathermen due to prosecutorial misconduct. In 1980, Dohrn voluntarily surrendered to authorities. Many of the serious federal charges against her were dropped due to the aforementioned government misconduct, including illegal surveillance by the FBI. She ultimately pleaded guilty to misdemeanor charges of aggravated battery and bail jumping. She was sentenced to 3 years probation and a fine, having reportedly suffered enough during her decade underground. After her legal issues, Bernardine Dohrn went on to pursue a career in law, becoming a retired law professor at Northwestern University and a leading figure in juvenile justice reform. Marie Dean Arrington, 1933 to 2014, was an American criminal from Florida with a history of violence and escapes, who gained significant notoriety after being placed on the FBI's 10 Most Wanted Fugitives list in 1969. She was the second woman ever to appear on the prestigious list. Arrington's criminal record began in her 20s, encompassing offenses from forgery and larceny to assault. Her first conviction for a violent crime was in 1964, for the manslaughter of her husband, Lester Jack Arrington, whom she confessed to shooting. Despite claiming self-defense, she was sentenced to 20 years. She later admitted she had buried the gun with her husband. The crime that truly cemented her notoriety and led to her place on the Most Wanted list occurred on April 22, 1968. While out on appeal bond for her manslaughter conviction, Arrington sought revenge against public defender Bob Pierce, who had unsuccessfully represented her 2 children on felony charges, resulting in their imprisonment. When she went to Pierce's office in Leesburg, Florida, and found him absent, she instead abducted his legal secretary, Vivian Ritter. Ritter's badly decomposed body was discovered 5 days later, riddled with bullets and showing signs of having been run over by a car multiple times. Prosecutors theorized that Arrington, driven by her anger over her children's convictions, acted alone in the abduction and murder. On December 6, 1968, Arrington was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to death. However, on March 1, 1969, while awaiting execution at the Florida Correctional Institution, she made a dramatic escape, cutting through a window screen and fleeing in her pajamas. This daring escape, given her violent history, quickly led to her addition to the FBI's 10 Most Wanted Fugitives list on May 29, 1969. The FBI described her as a cold-blooded killer and extremely dangerous. Marie Dean Arrington managed to evade capture for nearly 3 years, reportedly living in New Orleans and working as a waitress. She was finally apprehended on December 22, 1971, in New Orleans, Louisiana. After her capture, she was sentenced to an additional 10 years for her escape. Her death sentence for Vivian Ritter's murder was later commuted to life imprisonment in August 1972, following the U.S. Supreme Court's Furman v. Georgia decision, which temporarily declared capital punishment unconstitutional. Marie Dean Arrington remained incarcerated at the Lowell Correctional Institution in Florida, the same facility from which she escaped, until her death from heart problems on May 10, 2014, at the age of 80. Angela Yvonne Davis's most internationally recognized and controversial period began in 1970, when she became a central figure in a dramatic crime case that led to her placement on the FBI's 10 Most Wanted Fugitives list. The event stemmed from a courthouse shootout in Marin County, California. On August 7, 1970, Jonathan Jackson, the teenage brother of an incarcerated Black Panther leader George Jackson, whom Angela Davis advocated for as one of the Soledad brothers, attempted an armed takeover of a courtroom. His aim was to free his brother and other inmates by taking hostages, including a judge. During the chaotic escape attempt, a shootout ensued, resulting in the deaths of Judge Harold Haley, Jonathan Jackson, and 2 inmates. The FBI immediately launched a manhunt for Davis, alleging that she had purchased the weapons used in the incident, including a sawed-off shotgun. Though Davis maintained her innocence and stated she had no prior knowledge of the plan, a warrant was issued for her arrest, charging her with kidnapping, murder, and criminal conspiracy. She went into hiding, and on August 18, 1970, FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover added her to the Most Wanted list, describing her as armed and dangerous. After 2 months as a fugitive, Davis was apprehended in New York City. She was extradited to California, denied bail, and spent 16 months in jail awaiting trial. Her subsequent trial in 1972 became a global cause célèbre, with a massive Free Angela Davis campaign advocating for her release. Despite the sensational nature of the charges and the political pressure, an all-white jury ultimately acquitted her of all charges on June 4, 1972, finding insufficient evidence to link her to the crimes. This acquittal marked a significant moment in the civil rights and radical movements of the era, highlighting both the intense scrutiny she faced and her ultimate vindication in the legal system.